You think you know Elon Musk, but you've never seen what he went through to get here.
Picture a small apartment in Pretoria, South Africa. A boy sits by the window, sunlight streaming through, dust dancing in the air. His hair is messy, glasses too big for his face, and his hands are stained with ink from scribbling in notebooks. That boy is Elon Musk. Even as a child, he wasn't like the other kids. While they ran around playing soccer or watching cartoons, Elon spent hours reading books about space, physics, and technology. He wasn't just curious, he was obsessed. He imagined rockets that could escape Earth, machines that could change the world, and worlds that seemed impossible to anyone else. Life at home was complicated. His parents had their struggles, their arguments, their own worlds. Elon often felt caught in the middle, unsure where he belonged. He didn't have the constant support many kids take for granted, but he had something else, a fierce independence. He learned early that he could only rely on himself. School was no easier. Other children teased him relentlessly, calling him a nerd, a bookworm, sometimes even weird. But rather than breaking him, it only strengthened his focus. He began to retreat into his mind, a place where he could dream freely, without judgment, a place where he could start to build the foundation of the person he wanted to become. By the age of 10, Elon had discovered computers. While most kids were learning basic typing or playing video games, he was figuring out how to make computers do what he imagined. He read manuals, experimented with code, and taught himself programming line by line. At 12, he created his first video game, Blastar, and even sold it for a small sum of money. The feeling of accomplishment was intoxicating. For the first time, he understood the power of creating something out of nothing, of turning an idea into reality. That spark, that taste of achievement, would never leave him. But his interests didn't stop at computers. Elon devoured books, anything from science fiction to biographies of inventors and scientists. He was fascinated by the mysteries of the universe, by space, and by the pioneers who dared to imagine the impossible. Every night, he lay awake sketching rockets, designing imaginary machines, thinking about life far beyond Earth. While other kids dreamed about simple adventures, Elon dreamed about changing the world. And yet, the world outside his window was harsh. Bullies weren't kind. Kids pushed him, mocked him, sometimes even hurt him. But Elon learned early to shut out the noise. Instead of letting the taunts define him, he let them sharpen his focus. Every act of cruelty, every moment of loneliness became fuel for his mind. The more the world pushed, the harder he pushed back inwardly, building resilience few could understand. Even in school, where conformity often ruled, Elon thrived in his own unusual way. He stayed late after classes to tinker with electronics, experiment with small inventions, and read science magazines that no one else cared about. Teachers were often baffled. Some admired his intelligence, others thought he was strange. But Elon didn't care about fitting in. He had a vision of a life bigger than school, bigger than Pretoria, bigger than anyone else could see. Every failure, every awkward encounter, every night alone in his bedroom was shaping him, preparing him for challenges that most people can't even imagine. By the time he was a teenager, it was clear that Elon was more than just a dreamer. He was a thinker, a problem solver, and a creator. He understood that life would be messy, that people would doubt him, and that the path to greatness would be lonely. But he also understood something else. The mind that could imagine the impossible could also build it. And that's what he was doing, quietly, patiently, relentlessly. So there he was, A small boy in Pretoria with enormous ambition. Alone in his bedroom, staring at the stars, scribbling diagrams in a notebook, thinking, I'm going to do something big, something no one's done before. Little did anyone know that these quiet nights, this obsession with knowledge and imagination, were the early steps of a journey that would one day shake the world. Elon Musk, the boy who seemed different, was already on the path to becoming a man who would change it.
Now imagine a young Elon leaving behind everything he knows, friends, home, familiar streets in South Africa, and stepping into a completely new world, Canada. He's just a teenager, carrying nothing but a few belongings and a head full of dreams that seem too big for his age. The excitement of new beginnings is there, sure, but so is the crushing reality of starting over with almost nothing. No money, no family support nearby, no network. Just him and an unshakable determination to make something of himself. The first months are rough. Elon takes whatever work he can find, odd jobs that make little sense for a mind like his. He cleans floors, stacks shelves, delivers newspapers, and sweeps offices. Some nights he eats nothing but cheap ramen noodles, wondering if he'll ever catch a break. College classes are challenging too. He studies tirelessly, often late into the night, juggling coursework with jobs to pay rent. The apartment is small, cold, and lonely, and there's no one to share his fears or excitement with. Yet, despite the isolation, he thrives quietly. Picture him at 2 a.m., sitting under a dim lamp, a single computer illuminating his focused face. Lines of code scroll across the screen. He's building ideas, sketching business plans, imagining solutions to problems no one has even noticed yet. He faces rejection constantly. Applications for jobs get ignored. Investors turn him down. Professors don't understand his ambitions. Every no is a blow, but it also sharpens him. Elon learns to handle failure early, to treat each obstacle as a puzzle, a challenge to be solved rather than a reason to quit. The loneliness hits hardest when he compares himself to others. He sees peers with friends, families, opportunities, and wonders if he's behind. But he quickly pushes that thought aside, realizing that his journey is different. Every day spent alone is a day spent preparing himself for something extraordinary. Those nights of silence, the endless self-study, the constant tinkering, all of it is forming the foundation for the man he will become. And yet, it's not just about work. Elon is constantly thinking, always questioning. He watches the world around him, studying people, technology, and systems, imagining ways to improve them. Even in moments when he's exhausted, when his body aches and his mind feels heavy, the fire inside never dims. He's learning resilience, patience, and focus, skills that no classroom could ever teach. There are moments of real fear, too. Money runs low, bills pile up, and he wonders if he made the right choice in leaving home. He feels isolated, sometimes invisible, like no one truly understands him. But then he recalls his dreams, rockets, cars, innovations that could change the world, and he knows he can't turn back. Failure isn't the end, it's a step. Every lonely night, every struggle, every small victory is part of a larger path, a path he is determined to walk no matter how difficult. By the end of those early years in Canada, something remarkable has happened. Elon has learned to survive, to thrive, and to dream bigger than ever before. He's no longer just a boy fascinated by machines. He's a young man quietly building the foundation for ventures that the world hasn't even imagined yet. The loneliness, the struggle, the exhaustion, they haven't broken him. They've sharpened him, giving him the resilience and focus that will carry him through the storms to come. So imagine Elon, alone in a small apartment, staring at a flickering lamp, thinking, I may not have anything now, but one day I'm going to change everything. That hunger, that relentless drive is the quiet power behind the man who will one day take on the world's biggest challenges. And sometimes it's the moments of solitude that forge the strongest spirits. By the time Elon was in his early 20s, he had already faced years of loneliness, hard work, and relentless self-doubt. But he wasn't content to simply survive. He wanted to create something the world had never seen. That drive led him to start his first real venture, Zip2, a company he co-founded with his brother, Kimball. The idea was simple in concept, but revolutionary for the time. Help businesses put their directories and services online. Make it easier for people to find the products and services they needed. In 1995, the internet was still a strange, unexplored frontier, and Elon wanted to claim a piece of it. Starting Zip2 was nothing short of grueling. Imagine two young men, barely out of college, with almost no money, working in a tiny office that felt more like a storage room than a headquarters. Computers were old, phones constantly rang with questions and complaints, and they barely slept. Elon handled programming, designing systems, and coding late into the night, while Kimball managed sales calls and client meetings. The days blurred into nights, weeks into months, as they hustled tirelessly, often surviving on sandwiches and coffee. Pitching Zip2 to investors was like stepping into a lion's den. Many laughed at the idea. Some hung up on them. Others told them the internet was a fad, that businesses would never need online directories, that the concept was too risky. Every rejection stung, but Elon refused to let it crush him. He treated every no as a lesson, a challenge to refine his pitch, improve his product, and work harder. Nights alone in his apartment were filled with rewriting lines of code, rethinking strategies, and imagining ways to outsmart competitors. And then came the clients. Slowly, cautiously, companies began to notice Zip2. One small newspaper signed on, then another, and the momentum started to build. For the first time, Elon tasted a sense of real accomplishment. He could see that the sleepless nights, the stress, the endless pressure were starting to pay off. But it wasn't far from smooth sailing. The road ahead was filled with new problems, technical glitches, staffing issues, and investors who were impatient, always demanding faster growth. It was the first real lesson in how success comes hand in hand with constant pressure. Imagine Elon sitting at his desk one night, fluorescent lights buzzing above, phone messages piling up, servers crashing, and deadlines looming. It would have been enough to break anyone else. But he thrived in chaos. He fed off it. He worked with an intensity that terrified some employees and inspired others. The tension, the risk, the possibility of failure, it was all part of the thrill, part of the fire that fueled his ambition. The breakthrough came when Compaq acquired Zip2 for nearly $300 million. Suddenly, Elon had money, credibility, and recognition. The first taste of real success was exhilarating. But here's the thing most people don't see. Money didn't solve the struggles. Elon didn't suddenly relax or feel complete. There were still pressures, still expectations, still the fear that one misstep could undo everything. In fact, in many ways, the stakes became higher. The world was now watching, and failure was no longer just personal. It could affect investors, employees, and projects that were just beginning. This period was also deeply human for Elon. He faced doubt, exhaustion, and intense scrutiny. There were nights he questioned whether he had the strength to continue. Nights he wondered if his ambitions were too big, too fast, too impossible. But in those same nights, he also felt an unstoppable drive, a voice inside that whispered, "Keep going. You're just getting started." That inner fire, built from years of struggle, pushed him forward when the world doubted him most. Zip2 wasn't just a company. It was a crucible. It tested Elon in every way, mentally, emotionally, and physically. He learned the hard realities of business. Investors can be ruthless, people can be unreliable, and even brilliant ideas take relentless effort to succeed. But he also discovered the thrill of turning vision into reality, the intoxicating feeling of solving problems no one else can,
and the unique power of refusing to quit when the world says you should. By the end of Zip 2, Elon Musk was no longer just a young dreamer in a foreign country. He was a man who had faced rejection, failure, and the immense weight of responsibility, and had emerged stronger, wiser, and hungrier than ever. He had tasted both the agony of struggle and the sweetness of success, and he understood that real breakthroughs come from navigating the storm, not avoiding it. So picture him walking out of the Zip 2 offices after the sale, exhausted but alive, carrying a mix of relief and anticipation. Money in his pocket, lessons in his mind, fire in his heart. The first battle had been won, but Elon knew the wars were just beginning. The world hadn't yet seen what he was capable of. That was the quiet power of Zip 2. It didn't just build a company, it built the foundation of the relentless, daring entrepreneur the world would soon know as Elon Musk.
By the time Elon Musk turned his attention to Tesla and SpaceX, the stakes had grown enormously. This wasn't a small startup anymore. These were ventures that could literally reshape the future. Electric cars, reusable rockets, ideas most people thought were impossible or outright crazy. But for Elon, impossibility was just a challenge to be solved. What he didn't realize, or maybe he did and just accepted it, was that the road ahead would be full of moments that could crush even the strongest spirits. Starting SpaceX was like staring into the abyss. Rockets are complicated, delicate, expensive, and deadly if they fail. Early launches ended in spectacular explosions. Money drained faster than expected, investors grew impatient, employees grew frustrated, and the media had a field day mocking what they called Elon's space fantasy. Tesla wasn't much easier. Electric cars were considered impractical, slow, and overpriced. Production delays piled up, costs skyrocketed, and criticism mounted from all directions. Elon had poured nearly everything he had into these ventures, and the pressure was suffocating. Imagine him late at night in a dimly lit office, staring at spreadsheets, bills, and emails. The numbers don't add up. Rockets are exploding. Investors are on the phone, angry and impatient. Employees are exhausted. Friends worry for him. And yet he can't stop. There's a quiet intensity in his eyes, a refusal to let fear take over. Failure is real and imminent, but it isn't an option. Not for him, not yet. He works 100-hour weeks, sleeping in his office or on factory floors, personally overseeing technical problems, negotiating deals, and keeping morale from collapsing entirely. The stress is unimaginable. He faces bankruptcy multiple times. There are moments when he tells friends he's running out of money and options, nights when he wonders if he bit off more than he could chew. Every failure feels catastrophic, and the weight of expectation is crushing. Yet amidst all this chaos, there's a spark, a belief that if he can just hold on a little longer, the impossible can be achieved. And then, slowly, breakthroughs begin to happen. SpaceX rockets reach orbit. Tesla cars finally roll off assembly lines with customers impressed and investors slowly coming around. The tides start to turn. Elon is exhausted, bruised, and battle-worn. But for the first time, he glimpses a future where his vision can actually exist. The world begins to notice. Headlines call him a genius, a visionary, even a risk-taker bordering on reckless. But behind the fame is the truth few see. The sleepless nights, the fear, the tension, the near-bankruptcy moments that shaped every achievement. By the end of this chapter of his life, Elon Musk isn't just an entrepreneur. He's someone who has learned to thrive on the edge of failure. He's discovered that risk and reward are inseparable, and that real innovation comes from staring into the impossible and refusing to blink.
Tesla and SpaceX aren't just companies. They are living proof that persistence, obsession, and courage in the face of crushing pressure can produce results the world once thought impossible. And there he is, standing amid factories and launch pads, exhausted but alive, knowing that the battles aren't over. The edge of failure taught him resilience, and that lesson would carry him into even bigger challenges. Because Elon had learned something vital: the higher the risk, the greater the reward. And sometimes, the only way to reach the stars is to embrace the fear of falling.
After years of struggle, rejection, and near collapse, the world finally began to notice Elon Musk. Not just as an entrepreneur, but as a visionary. SpaceX rockets were reaching orbit, landing back safely for reuse, a feat most engineers had thought impossible. Tesla was no longer a niche electric car startup. It was shaping the future of transportation. Solar energy, AI, underground transportation projects, everything Elon touched seemed to ripple with the possibility of changing the world. But the truth behind the headlines was far messier than most people imagined. The breakthrough wasn't a single moment. It was a culmination of relentless persistence. Nights spent worrying about rocket explosions, days filled with factory crises, the pressure of investors ready to pull out. All of it led to moments of triumph that felt almost surreal. Elon, who had once slept on office couches and eaten cheap meals to survive, was now watching rockets soar into the sky and cars roll off assembly lines that he had dreamed into existence. Even with the fame and success, Elon didn't slow down. In fact, the victories seemed to fuel him even more. While the world celebrated him as a billionaire, a disruptor, and a genius, he was already planning the next frontier. Mars colonies, self-driving cars, AI safety, and renewable energy weren't just ideas, they were missions. And he treated them with the same intensity that had fueled his first nights alone in Pretoria. But the truth behind the achievements was countless untold struggles. He still faced sleepless nights, impossible deadlines, technical failures, and public scrutiny. Friends and employees worried for him. Critics questioned every move. Elon had learned that the higher you climb, the harsher the winds. Yet somehow he continued to push forward, driven by a vision far larger than himself. He wasn't motivated by wealth or fame. He was driven by possibility, by the idea that the future could be different if he refused to accept limits. It's easy to see Elon Musk today and think success came easy, but the truth is far more human and inspiring. Each rocket that lands, each car that rolls off the assembly line, every breakthrough in renewable energy is built on a foundation of doubt, fear, exhaustion, and relentless determination. What the world sees is the final product, the innovation, the headlines, but not the years of struggle, the lonely nights, or the moments when giving up seemed easier than going on. And yet, through all of it, Elon has shown that persistence and courage can create what others consider impossible. He is living proof that the combination of vision, obsession, and resilience can overcome almost any obstacle. The child in Pretoria who gazed at the stars, the young man in Canada working odd jobs, and the entrepreneur at the brink of bankruptcy, they are all the same person, driven by one unshakable force: the refusal to stop dreaming. Now, as he looks toward the future, Elon Musk is more than a billionaire or a business mogul. He is a symbol of relentless ambition, a reminder that the road to greatness is rarely easy, often terrifying, but always worth walking. The story of his struggle, the moments they never show, the fear, the failure, the loneliness, remains hidden behind the rockets and Teslas. But it is precisely that journey, that relentless persistence against all odds,
that defines the true legacy of Elon Musk.